Okay, we're going to try and reconnect with Patricia in a moment. Nzinga?
Thanks, Nompumelelo. Dr. Sithembile Mbete joins me live from our Pretoria studios. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Both Mmusi Maimane and Athol Trollop have described what's happening in Nelson Mandela Bay, as well as what could possibly happen in Tshwane today, as the stealing of a city. Is this a correct assessment?
Well, no. Thanks so much for having me here. I think, the describing of both cases as stealing the city is incorrect when the Democratic Alliance in both metropolitan municipalities didn't get the 50% that it would have required to run the cities fair and square without needing to enter a coalition with any other smaller parties. And so both in the case of Nelson Mandela Bay and in the case of Tshwane, and for that matter in Johannesburg, the DA became the government because of its coalitions and because of deals that it made with smaller parties. Yes, in both cases, the DA received a bigger proportion of the vote than any other party and more than the ANC. But in Tshwane, if you look at the margin, it's pretty slim. It's 2%. The DA got about 43% of the vote, the ANC got 41%, and the DA used that to be able to put together a government that was heavily reliant on the support of the EFF, which got 11% in Tshwane. So to describe this as stealing the city just is factually untrue.
Okay, now addressing the media a short while ago, the ANC's Fikile Mbalula said, and I quote, "The immediate issue for the ANC is to bring stability and provide services for the people in these metros." But we're hearing from the Democratic Alliance yesterday that there was a deficit in both municipalities and they've moved it into a surplus, and service delivery is finally taking place at a greater pace in those municipalities.
Certainly, the different parties will obviously make various claims about their track record of governance in different cities. And the DA has made the claims about turning the budget deficit into a surplus. And there's also then questions raised about how it was able to do that. And some people on the ANC side or other opposition saying that the reason why the DA was able to save so much money is because they've actually cut down on many of the services that were previously being provided by the previous government. Of course, on the DA side, in response to what the ANC's claims are, the DA could argue that to run a city, you need to have it be run sustainably, and that there was a great deal of wastage in the way in which the ANC ran the city. And even if it was providing certain services, it was doing so whilst also taking kickbacks or benefiting particular people. And so these sorts of claims are the kinds of claims that we're going to always hear between political parties as they are campaigning against each other. And let's not forget that a lot of what we've seen in Nelson Mandela Bay and what we're seeing in Tshwane and what we will continue to see throughout the year is preparation already for the 2019 provincial and national election. So what you've got happening in cities where there are coalition governments is that the parties within those coalitions, the parties that sit within those councils, are now preparing to compete against each other for an election in 2019. So that it's going to be political interest, it's going to be political competition that takes precedence over really the truth of whether citizens are getting services or not.
Okay, corruption is also a word that's being bandied about by both parties as motivation for their actions. We've seen in Nelson Mandela Bay that the new MMC for Infrastructure and Engineering, Andile Lungisa, has a full conviction, while Solly Msimanga has been accused of impropriety in his hiring practice in that, as well as that 12 billion rand Glad Africa tender. So what do the optics look like, and how, as a voter, when you look at both of these things that are going on, do you decide which party could be correct?
Well, certainly what's happened with Solly Msimanga in Tshwane is that he has been implicated in a number of allegations of wrongdoing. So it began with the appointments of his assistant, I think first it was, and then other people within his office and within his government, who appeared to be appointed irregularly without the proper qualifications, and then the issues with the municipal manager who's been suspended for giving this contract irregularly of 12 billion rand, and accusations from the ANC that there's no way that Msimanga could not have known about all of this taking place within under his leadership. And if he didn't know, then that also points to negligence really on his part and his responsibility as the mayor, as the political leader of the city. We know that the EFF did give the DA an out, so to speak, by saying that if the DA nominated somebody from its own ranks that was not Msimanga to take over from him, the EFF would support the DA in that respect. And so the EFF saying that our issue isn't necessarily with you as a party, but is definitely with the leadership of this particular individual. And the DA, Mmusi Maimane, has refused that offer and said that he stands by Msimanga as their preferred candidate to run the city. Let's not forget that this has all been complicated, and I think that a lot of these issues have come to the fore by the DA announcing publicly that it had nominated Msimanga as its provincial premier candidate for Gauteng. And the reality is that once you make that kind of political announcement, then it means that the candidate in play becomes not just the mayor of Tshwane, or is not just known by their current position, but is also being judged according to the position that they want to take in future and the position that they want to be voted for in future. And so the politics is going to get dirty. And so I think that it really places voters in a terrible conundrum, because on the one hand, it's evident that that a lot of what's going on with these decisions is political infighting, is political shenanigans. It really has nothing to do with the substance of governance or the substance of service delivery. And so the politicians are really playing their own game here. But on the other, I think for voters, watching how the political parties are dealing with these different things is a pretty good indicator of who it is that you can trust your vote with, about whether or not the different parties are going to allow being right politically to override the other decisions that they make for the good of the city and for the good of voters and for the good of citizens in the country.
Dr. Sithembile Mbete, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. We're going to stay with that story and go over to Nompumelelo now.